Now, let's get to the deadlift. There's some interesting controversy sometimes in our space about the deadlift. Is it a hip exercise? Is it a back exercise? Well, it's both. It's both. But the interesting thing about the deadlift is it's amazing for both. You almost never find an exercise that's incredible for two things. It's either like, well, it's really good for this, but maybe not so much for this, but it works that as well. When it comes to deadlift, it's one of the best back exercises, period, end of story. It will develop all the muscles that we covered here in this episode. Part of the reason is the load. There's almost no exercise that I can think of, no traditional exercise that I can think of, where you'll be able to use as much weight as you can with the deadlift. So the potential for tension with the deadlift is so high. In other words, if I do a 500-pound deadlift, okay, versus a row with 220 pounds, I mean, they're both heavy, but man, 500 pounds is 500 pounds. And the tension produced in my back is going to activate so many different muscle fibers. And like Adam said, I can almost always tell when someone doesn't deadlift by how well or poorly their back is developed. It makes a huge difference.
I mean, it really, like, it's about the amount of force that you can generate, and it has to meet or exceed the demand of the load. And so to be able to do that with a substantial amount more weight that you're going to deadlift off of the ground, it just places more demand on the overall exercise, which then affects your body to grow, to meet the environment that you're placing it in.
What's the book that you always tout, Justin? That is the one that talks
Super Training.
Is that the one with all the isometrics? Talks about all the science behind isometrics. So for the people that don't know where they stand on this deadlift argument that I cannot stand, that we even have to
I wish people would just do it.
Go read all the studies.
Yeah, but I'd also like do it for 6 months.
Let's simplify this so people understand. Let's first back it all the way up to understanding. If you understand the science behind isometrics and the value on what it has for muscle building, if you listen to enough episodes of Mind Pump, you've heard us talk about that. It's the reason why we've incorporated in some of our programs. We talk about it as one of the like lost secrets of training that people do not put a lot of focus on. That talk about the king of isometric exercises. We just talked about all these different muscles that are in the back. It's this massive muscle, and it is a massive isometric exercise. You are having to keep the spine completely rigid, and in order to keep that spine rigid like that, all these muscles that we're talking about have to activate and fire.
Well, so along those lines, so for the erector spinae, if your spine does zero flexing, okay, which it's going to do some flexing with a heavy deadlift. But even if it does zero, yes, it's isometric for the erector spinae. But it is not isometric for the lats.
Yeah, because you're moving.
Your arms are in front of you at the bottom, and as you stand up, the arms come to your side. So your lats actually go through contraction. Your trapezius, your rhomboids go through contraction. When your hands are down here and you pull way up, your scapula, your shoulder blades do come together at the top of the movement. So in some ways, it's a super high tension isometric exercise.
The reason why people think, and the reason why I bring up the isometrics is because people look at the range of motion on all the muscles you just said, and they go, it's this tiny, shortened range of motion, therefore it's inferior to these other exercises that take the muscle through full range of motion. My point of bringing up the isometrics is we understand how valuable it is just to create an isometric contraction or tension and how much muscle that can build. So this whole idea of just taking it through range of motion dictates whether it's a superior exercise or not is moot. It does matter that you are creating so much isometric tension in those muscles that you would never be able to load it like that in any other exercise. And that's what brings so much value to that. Not getting so detailed about, oh, well, this is technically contracting a little bit here and a little bit there. It's like, because that argument is where people try and argue against it. Oh, well, what you're saying right now, a lat pull down, that's weak. You only take it through a quarter of the range of motion compared to doing a pullover. A pullover does way more sal than that. And so then they try and take that argument that direction, that it's a shortened range of motion, therefore it's inferior. But my point of bringing the isometrics up is that isometrics have so much value, and show me an exercise that you can load like that and get that kind of isometric tension in.
You can't. It's the heaviest exercise that most people will ever be able to do. It's also got tremendous carryover. So like if you add 50 pounds to your deadlift, you're going to be a lot stronger in pretty much every back exercise. So if it's not like this traditional back exercise, then why does that always happen? In fact, I've had clients where we've gone through cycles where we're just trying to get better at deadlift, and I do minimal. And I mean minimal, any other back exercise. We do a little bit, but pretty minimal. Then we go back to other traditional back exercises, and they're the strongest they've ever been.
This happened to me. If you listen to this show since day one, you heard me go through this. Like I shared this experience.
This was after you were already a pro competitor.
Yes. I was not deadlifting consistently, and I never really deadlift. And I decided for the first time in my life, after already training 15 years of my life, that okay, I'm going to go on this kick where I eliminate like 90% of all the back exercise I was doing, and all I was going to focus on was deadlifting. And I got really strong with deadlift. I got my deadlift up to 550 pounds. And then after I'd done that, I'd gone back to the traditional movements. And I was across the board on these movements that I hadn't done in months, some of them over a year. And all of them I was stronger in. That blew, and including hamstring curls, which was also got blew my mind. I've been working on that hamstring curl machine my whole life and couldn't get past a certain weight. I was double the weight when I got back. That just, and what's so crazy, because we understand the SAID principle, how important it is, like for a very specific exercise and movement, to think that I was able to not do all those exercises and see huge strength gains in it. That to me was enough for me to go, holy shit, totally. Was that amazing of an exercise.
Now let's talk about some back isolation exercises. And really they're mainly, I would say, lat isolation exercises. That's where you kind of put most of the exercise in this particular category. And these include things like a straight arm pull down or a dumbbell pullover. Now, I love the dumbbell pullover because there's almost no exercise that trains that particular motion, right?
I mean,
where you're
like
going from back here.
Combos, tricep and lats, which is an interesting blend.
Yeah, I think it's just a healthy exercise to do. It works on thoracic mobility. It works the lats, the chest, to a small extent is involved there. So I think pullovers or straight arm pull downs. Straight arm pull downs more for lat isolating, pullovers more just for shoulder function and just more of that kind of classic, bodybuilder pullover, type value, whatever.
I think that pullovers are a must exercise in clients' routines, regardless of your goal. It just very, very few times in your life as we age, will you be required to, lift your arm, completely above your head like that, and using gravity to take you through that, to help you connect to your lats, to your shoulders, to all the stabilizer muscles when you're all the way pulled back in that position, has so much value for overall health. And so this would be an exercise that you would see me doing with my 70-year-old client because of how much value that it holds.
And also, too, to a lot of athletes that I've trained and just people in general that are like in the gym that like get really strong in one direction, this is a great counter to a lot of like shoulder chest strength that will help to also be able to stretch and maintain mobility and have that ability to reach over your head without having to put so much emphasis on all of the mobility drills and things that we highlight. Yes, it's that's good, but there's also ways to incorporate this in your training, so it's just a constant thing that you're checking, and you don't have to go back and really address it through kind of mundane mobility exercises.
Yeah, if you have tight lats, do pullovers with a light weight and focus on the stretch. Cross bench, meaning the bench is like this and you're laying across it, not down it like you normally would, so that you can sink your hips as your arms go back and really get a lat stretch on the way down.